Maybe.
All right, welcome back. Episode number 146, Mastering Modern Selling. Tom and Brandon here today. Carson, they're giving him too much to do over there at Microsoft. They've got to let off him a little bit, but I think he'll be back next week. But we have another really good guest, Heath Barnett. Welcome.
Man, I'm excited to be here after that welcome intro video. I'm hyped.
Yeah, I know. Brandon's using the air guitar and stuff, but by then. But
I know I something popped up on there. It's normally I'm in full air guitar motion going on there, but by the time we come back.
So, all right. So, hey, as always, we are sponsored by Fist Bump. Brandon, what's the latest with Fist Bump? What's going on?
You know, you and I talked about this. We did the episode about a month and a half ago with Alice. The one thing that our clients are really going towards for everybody that's working well, whether you use us or do it on your own, is facilitate the peer-to-peer roundtable discussions. What a great way to reach out to people, invite them. It's no sales pitch. It's not a webinar. We're not going to talk at you. It's participation. We limit it to somewhere between 20-ish people. And we've been coordinating that for our clients, getting the invitations out, getting people in there. That's really, really what we've been doing. Alice and I have another one coming up in October that we're going to do. It's just been such a great way to meet our customers, have conversations with them, let them get to know us get to know them, and just really build that relational equity. And in a season, I know we're going to talk about this a little bit today about sales being broken. When outbound pitches, hey, do you have time for a call? Do you have this, that? That is so, people are so inundated with it. Creating a forum, it's almost like micro events are really big right now. Live events are really big right now. Doing that in a virtual setting is a little micro event. Has been very popular and a great way to get our customers to want to be in a conversation with us, because it's not us speaking at them as much as it's bringing a group of people to have a discussion together. So that's what we've been doing a lot of lately. And of course, our customers with their shows, their podcast, and all the content that comes from it, especially using that content for their blogs, that's really tapping into the AI. It's a lot of the content from these shows are great content to tap into the AI search. And so, that's what we've been up to. So welcome everybody to episode, what are we, 146?
146, yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, if you're on the podcast listening, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. If you like what you hear, we would appreciate the give us a review, screen capture it, share it with people who you think need to see it. And if you're on any of our video channels with us, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever else we are today, if you comment while we're live or even afterwards, we're going to see it. If it's live, we may bring it up on screen and get Heath to answer questions. And if it's later, then Tom and I we get notifications. We'll come back around and comment back and ask questions or give you references of things. So thanks everybody for coming.
Well, it looks like Bob's here. Aloha. So Heath, get ready. Bob asked some tough questions. So we're ready. Hey, so Heath, welcome again. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do. We're going to talk about something today that I don't know that we've really spent a lot of time on in our 146 episodes, which is how do we kind of use this concept of signals, but not just for top of the funnel, but how do we use that to kind of facilitate that buyer journey and the coordination between the buyer and the seller, which I'm really interested to dig into. But yeah, Heath, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you and who you work with.
Yeah. So background on me, I've been across all ends of the spectrum. I have done transactional sales. I've worked my way up through doing mega enterprise sales. Give you an example. When I was at Accenture, my team did $250 million deals or larger. And then we also did any mergers and acquisitions. But where I really love to live and breathe is in the SMB and mid-market space. You talk about building the engine. It's what I absolutely love doing, which is why it's a good topic today on like signals. And, I've seen it all from like the startup chaos to the post IPO politics. But I think like where I'm excited about this is like the constant through all of that is people like to do deals and they like to do business with people that they trust. And I think that's where really the foundation of today's conversation can really start to take us off. And I think we've lost that a little bit in the world of sales, around like actually connecting with people, which is why, Brandon, I love that you talked about the events that you're doing. Like in real life events is like it's like the new cold calling of today again. And I absolutely love it, especially with everything that's changing. I've been a big proponent of like Jeffersonian dinners. Are you familiar with those?
No.
So
Let's hear it.
Jeffersonian
Sounds like a
dinners.
new add-on for the thing there, but yeah, go ahead.
So it's exactly what you talked about, though, where, too often when we do events, it's about somebody sponsoring it and they want to pitch a product, or it's so focused around like sells. What a Jeffersonian dinner is, it's like the dinner revolves around one topic and the host introduces that topic. And then basically everybody goes around and like debates that topic over dinner. So it could be as simple as like you put a dinner together and you go, AI is going to replace humans. Go. That's your topic for the entire dinner, and like everything revolves around that. And then basically the host's job is to help guide that conversation. But man, I've gone to a couple now and the conversations have been so rich. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and that's similar. I mean, the the roundtables that we do, there's a high level topic, and you tell everybody come prepared and talk about specifically what you want to talk about, questions you have, concerns you have, something you've tried that's worked that you can share, and then everybody contributes to each other. And we tried to tell everybody, hey, limit it to about a 2-minute response at the most. That way we can keep going, get more people talking, and keep more topics. And I haven't had one yet where people haven't said, this was really cool. Are you going to do another one?
That's awesome.
Heath, I know this isn't, we're already off topic, but that's all right. That's what we do here.
Hey, wait, we did pretty good. We're 7 minutes in, and that's pretty good for us.
The first 5 minutes was pretty well structured, but after that, it's
giving us a benefit of the doubt on the time there. Come on.
So on these dinners, on the Jeffersonian dinners, if somebody, if everybody debates, right? If I'm sponsoring that dinner, for example, what am I looking to get out of that? Am I looking to get to know people, understand their problems more, or understand? Because to me, it doesn't sound necessarily like it would be a traditional prospecting event where I'm showing my product and that kind of stuff. It's more getting people to communicate and understanding maybe where they're at. So what as a sponsor, what am I hoping to achieve from that?
Well, I think it's a great question, right? And it almost kind of tells into this whole signals conversation and how the game is changing. So let me take it back to, how do buyers actually search today, right? Like SEO is getting flipped on its head, and it's because it's not about keywords. Like buyers now are searching for solutions to problems, and they're just asking Google or any LLM, how do I solve this problem? And that's really what the same thing is in the conversation. And that's what you're doing is, I think where we've gone the wrong way, or maybe it was because it was so new back in the day, we could get away with saying, hey, come to this happy hour, this dinner, and I'm just going to pitch slap you while you're here. Right? Like that's the old traditional way, where I think now it's about, if I was a sponsor, one is making sure that the topic that we're going to talk about is around a problem or a pain point that my company potentially solves. Right. And then the goal from there is like, let's just have intelligent, thoughtful conversation. And the ultimate goal is, to that signal piece, is if there's a couple of prospects that I nailed down in that dinner that I know that we can help with, well, now I have very tailored messaging, and I have a very specific reason why I'm going to follow back up with Brandon after that dinner, because I know Brandon probably has a problem that I can actually help him with.
So can I add to that, Tom?
Yeah.
And just to compare it with the roundtables that we do, the next day or the couple of days, it's picking up the phone and calling everybody and saying, hey, thank you for attending. 2 questions. What was the biggest value you got out of it? And number 2, what could we do better next time to do it even better? What are we doing there? We're not selling, we're just building that relationship. And Heath, I think before we went on, we were talking about trust, or maybe you said it online, but while we were on, but trust is so important we talk about trust a lot, but there's not a whole lot of motions in most sales playbooks to actually create and build trust. It's usually like, well, just ask good questions, or, and those things are all true. They are in the process of building trust. But I think this is a much bigger step to demonstrating trust and building that relational equity, building rapport, and having conversations that can lead. We got to be patient. Tom, what's our favorite thing? Go slow to move fast.
Yeah.
You got to be a little patient with it. But you get 20 people, you get 20 more people the next month, you get 20, you start to build a bit of a flywheel of people that you have, people who know you, like you, trust you, and you're in relationship with them. And they're people that you could pick up the phone and call, and they'll answer or they'll return your call because you already demonstrated you're not pitch slappy.
And I'm gonna do a favor for you real quick, Tom, and bring this back to the topic, which is signals, right?
Okay.
So to your point though, Brandon, is let's run with this, because events is actually one that I leverage a lot of signals off of. And so I'll give you a real world example of what we do is anytime we host any event, obviously we know who RSVP'd, and so we can tag that person. So exactly to your point is, let's say that event's done. If you have the right tools in place, I can actually see that, okay, Brandon came to this event. He then went to our website after that event. He actually went and checked out these 3 different product pages. So to your point is like, I can actually sit back and wait for when does Brandon tell me that he's ready to actually have a conversation? And the reason I think that's important is because I think the biggest problem in the market is that our buyers have evolved faster than we have as sellers. We do not do a good job of educating our sellers of like how to actually solve problems. The problem is most AI does a better job of actually educating and explaining than we do today. And that's where I think sales needs to change, is we need to be more resourceful, more educated, to where when we do have that conversation, it's very targeted to exactly what are you trying to solve, Brandon?
It's good.
Yeah, I think your point about the buyer journey has maybe leapfrogged our ability to manage the sales journey more. We're kind of out of sync, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're operating from 2011 still in a lot of cases with predictable revenue and that kind of thing, and our buyers are using, right, the tools and techniques of AI and all of the things that they can do to do their own discovery along the way. So I think that's a really important point. Brandon,
And
you're laughing.
I mean, I saw Dr. Joe Hill's comment on there of stealing that, and yeah, you and me both, Dr. Joe. That, and then I like that. Honestly, I like the different, calling it a Jeffersonian dinner. People go, "What's that?" You call it a virtual roundtable. People go, "Oh, I know what that is." It's create that little bit of intrigue. But I really like that a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about how do I do better local events. And Heath, you can probably speak into this, and we'll get back to signals. But it's like hey, we're going to have bourbon, we're going to have wine, we're going to have food from this place, we're going to have cigars, like whatever. All those things, they just get so played out. Right now, this is such a new concept. I think it'll capture attention.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people want. People want to actually have good conversation, right? I think that it's probably one of the best things of like post COVID that could happen for us is people crave actual like in life interactions again. And I think it's critical we call it out, right? Because back to the point around like where buyers have actually like, they are more sophisticated than we are. We created this problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they are now immune to our old playbook. Cold calls like don't work. Cold emails go anywhere. Like LinkedIn pitches. I check my LinkedIn probably every 3 days now because it just gets flooded with pitches. And it's because we optimize for quantity over quality because we could get away with it. And so we did that. We then started saying like, oh, this channel works. So now just go and send 5,000 emails. It's also the difference in just like how we are is like, we don't want to pick up the phone and talk to people anymore. Right. And so like, there's a lot of these, like the spray and pray approach is just not effective. It's damaging brand reputations now. And so it is like, I truly believe this. And I think Bob made a really good point is like buyers want a self solution more than like going to vendors. And that's very true. Like the data shows that, right? Is like they used to do about 50% of their research before they talked to sales. So they came to us because they needed further education and awareness. That 40/50 is now 80%. They don't want to talk to us until they're actually ready to make a decision. And even more is more customers are now expecting to test drive your software before they actually buy it. Same thing with cars, right? We go test drive a car. That's the same thing happening in software now, where it's like, I have the resources to do my education. Now, give me a little bit of taste of your platform. Then sales come in and actually help show me more value than I originally thought I could have here.
So if buyers, which I agree with, obviously, that are self-solutioning, as Bob stated it, right, and doing their own research, then and this I think where the dinner comes in really nicely, right? Let's assume that through online they can do 80% of their research and learn about at least our product, our what we do, the market that we serve, the problems that we solve. But as Bob points out there, it probably doesn't do a hell of a lot for building trust. So if they're doing that anyway, and I'm doing like a dinner like you talked about, where if nothing else, they now have gotten to know you or know who you are and shake your hands and drink wine with you or whatever, you're at least that, even no matter what's even being discussed at that dinner is not even so important, is the fact that you're building the relationship and the trust. And I can see the same thing true, Brandon, with the roundtable. It's the same concept, right? Because you're kind of coming into a roundtable with a discussion, and now you're at least getting to know them, even if it's virtually.
And you hit a really important part, Tom. And because I think this is one of the bigger problems in the market today is we treat every different channel, right? In-person events, outbound, inbound, whatever you want to call them, but we treat each one as though it's like a silver bullet to our problems, right? I invited this person to a dinner, and so like they should be like, I should build trust because they came to that dinner. Where we have to shift our thinking though is you hit it, is like buyers are doing their research. So we need to make sure that our website and our messaging and our content speaks to the problems that they have. There's validation number one. Validation number two is there user generated content? Do I have good reviews and case studies from their peers in their network? Because that gives me some more market validation. Then if Brandon's been doing these roundtables or Jeffersonian dinners for some time, I'm probably not going to go on social media and see that there's maybe people I'm connected with who have gone to these events. So now you start to see like that person before they even come to that dinner has already actually built some trust because Brandon did a good job of actually creating the community around him. And I think that's what we actually don't do well enough today.
I think that's a great point, is surrounding them with the trust isn't just from you, it's the ecosystem, the trustful ecosystem that you're creating.
Yeah, I think what I want to echo with that, Heath, you said something I think really important that I think a lot of companies, sales leaders, company leaders don't want to hear is you can't treat a single event as a silver bullet, but we do, right? I mean, Tom, you and I mean, this has been a little while ago, but we talked to a customer of ours who invested a lot of money for them in a trade show.
Yeah.
And they had, sponsored, they had speakers going to be there. They did all this stuff. And then 6 weeks before the event, a major expense for them that they had bigger expense they've ever done before. They went, oh, we haven't done any promotion for it. Right. It was like the whole focus on this event was if we show up, they're going to come to us. And then 6 weeks out, they're like, wait a minute, how are we going to get people into the booth? How are we going to get people to show up to our breakout sessions? How are we going to do anything? And I mean, they thought of it at least 6 weeks prior, but with Chris Dunn, who has his show on Exhibitors Toolkit, he talks with people all the time with their show. And it's like, if we create the most creative and cool booth experience, they're just going to show up. It's like, no, they still don't know who you are. They may walk in and get your tchotchke, or they may walk in and look around and go, ooh, ah, but it doesn't mean they're ready to talk to you. It takes time. And to your point, Heath, we've forgotten that. Mm-hmm. Collectively, we've forgotten that because we got a bunch of more easy buttons. Oh, we can just email everybody. Oh, we can just call everybody. And while it worked, it was great. But the fact that it doesn't work anymore and people still don't want to change.
Bob beat me on it. I was like, too many people are watching Field of Dreams thinking that if you build it, they will come.
Right.
But you hit the nail on the head, Brandon. And it really is. I mean, I'll give you a great example of how I think about that. For example, like I'm a big believer that like, unless you're very enterprise, I think paying for like a booth, it's just very expensive. It is very hard to get an ROI from it, depending on what your ACV is as an organization, right? Because if you're enterprise, you close 1 6-figure client, it paid for itself. But to your point, where I do believe is people enjoy experiences. Maybe it's because my wife does experiential marketing, so like I see what she does in the real world. But what I do now, whenever we do conferences, is I either try to get a speaking event, because then I can actually just go talk to people. Or number two is, rather than paying for a booth, is we'll actually sponsor a happy hour or an actual event. Then what we do, it's the same thing as what people do with Crossbeam today, where it's like, hey, do we want to partner together? Well, let's sync up our CRMs and see if we actually have some good cross-pollination of customers. I do that for events where I'm like, okay, who's a good partner that's in my vertical, but completely different software that I know can also help, one, spread my budget and increase my ROI, but two, will also bring in a different audience. And because they have built trust with that audience, and I'm now partnered with them, that has naturally opened up that door of a little bit of trust. And it's exactly like those are the small things, though, where it's like we can rethink how we do anything in real life or any type of go-to-market motion.
Yeah, but here's what I'm hearing if I were to kind of distill this down, right? Is we have treated events, and Brandon, your example of the trade show one, right? This was the epitome of this in a way, as super lead generation opportunities, right? Like in their mind, this was their
Scan the
lead,
badge, scan the badge, scan
Scan
the
the
badge.
badge.
right? But in their mind, this was the lead generation event of the year, right?
Mhm.
In their mind, whatever happened I think it was in October, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, whatever happened in October was going to make their following year, right? Based around the leads that were created at that show, right? That was there.
Right.
Now, as it turns out, we were able to help them create a lot of leads. It just didn't happen to all revolve around the show. But that's a different story.
Well, in a way, what we did, and I think that's why I thought about it, what Heath said earlier, Heath, you were talking about really building a culture around it, giving them lots
Right.
of different events. You
Right.
had to have your website experience, you had to have your content
Right.
experience, whether it is even social content experience versus blog content, your email campaigns, it had to all be consistent. And in their case, there were no emails going out. They weren't communicating with their clients any other way. They were doing a bunch of cold outreach. Hey, we're going to be in town. Can we come see you? And they were doing okay. They were at the largest that company had ever been for a small company. But the mindset is what always gets me. And if you recall that, we're like, hey, these are the things that we're going to do before the event. These are the things that we need to do after the event. And they're like, oh, we don't need anything after the event. And we're like,
That's when the sell starts.
Yeah,
right.
that's when the fun begins.
Yeah.
But I think if we start to look at these events more so from a trust and a relationship building perspective as the valuable outcome, and less around, hey, I got a lead, right? That I'm going. I think it changes the way that you're saying, Heath, the way that you put together the event. Why not invite a partner or two to co-sponsor the event and use that to build that ecosystem around there? And then, again, if you can assume they're going to go through their buyer journey predominantly online, the only wild card, the only differentiator you have then is the trust that you've built through so use the events for trust building or relationship building, and less for how do I get a scan, right? I mean, think about the conferences that are all designed to just figure out how to get a scan of somebody's badge. And like, that's going to turn into something.
Well, and there's a lot to unpack there too, because I think the problem behind that too, it's the way that we incentivize our reps, right? I'm guilty of this. I've done this before back in the day, where I literally would put a spiff out for whoever brought in the most leads at that conference or that event. But that was the name of the game back then, right? And like, that's all our reps would do, is just run around and try to scan every single badge. Where now, to your point, Tom, I would rather pay for 5 people's full price tickets than pay for a booth and just let them go be at the event and just walk around and talk to people, build relationships. They'll bring in more sales qualified leads than any other person can do just bringing in scanned leads.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to signals. And so one of the things, Heath, and I'd kind of like you to unpack the bigger picture here on signals, right? Because first of all, what the heck is a signal, right? Why should we care? How do we get them? And how do we use them? How's that? We only have a half hour left, so can we go?
Yeah.
But go for it.
So let's talk about what are signals first. So you have 3 layers of signals. You have your first party, second party, and third party signals. Okay. First party signals are going to be anything that you are able to capture about your customer through your own software. So for example, at Mixmax, the signals that we have are like, have they been activated yet? Which means, have they done the basic components of onboarding with us? Have they adopted a new product that we're using? Yes or no. It's just different variables that you're able to actually pull from your database to understand, how is a customer using my tool today, right? The second
Would your
part
website also apply to that, or is that
website can also apply to that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can track website visitors. Now there's platforms that can do the de-anonymization for you, which means if somebody comes to my website and they don't actually fill out a form, is there a way that we can identify what company they actually come from still?
Yeah.
So that's first party. Second party is going to be, it's really what they call, it's like the dark, what is it called? I forgot what it's called, but anyways,
Dark web.
it's not the dark web. It's a different term they have for it. But basically, it's like
I'm sorry, dark social is the term I
dark
was thinking
social.
of.
Yeah. So it's like Reddit, it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's whatever social media like that you are actually like tracking. G2 is a great example also. Then you have third party, which is your basic firmographic data, which is what the data we get from every data provider. This is their industry. This is their annual revenue. This is their employee headcount.
Zoom info, that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the way I look at it is your third party data is what helps you identify your TAM, right? Who am I going after? What is like the actual firmographic information around the company profile that I care about? It could be fundraising related. It could be stack related for what tech they use. It's really like, what data do you need to use externally to be able to identify these are the customers that I want to go after? So Bob, you're talking about, TAM, SAM, and SOM from a marketing perspective of like, how big is my TAM? But think of this from a campaign perspective. Let's just create one. Actually, Bob, I'm going to have you put in the chat real quick. Give me an example of like a customer that you would want to go after. What's their firmographic look like?
Sometimes it takes a minute for the comment to come through. So
while he's doing that, that's when I talk about TAM, it's like the size of your campaign. I think it's one of the problems today with signals is that we still think of this spray and pray mentality, meaning Tom came to my website. Let me go put Tom into an email right now because he came to my website. I'm like, no, that's spray and pray, that's spam again. Versus what we do, for example, we have a campaign right now where it was, oh, I'll give you an easy one. We have one because this is a fun one. We're doing a lookalike campaign. Okay. And so what we actually did is we looked at our website and we said, okay, let's go and find every lookalike for every company that we have a case study with today. And so what we have done is that's our TAM, is we basically uploaded a list of these companies that we have case studies with. We then have said, hey, let's go find companies that are like this company. Okay.
was that a load into Google or Facebook or whatever? Where did you build the lookalike audience?
So you would pull the lookalike audience from your CRM, and then you would put it into a tool such as like Clay, which is Clay is a tool that you can then run lookalike campaigns to identify companies that look similar to it.
Interesting.
All right.
Okay.
So we got Bob's. We got tech SMBs, 20 million looking to get to 50. Perfect. I actually love that example, Bob.
Okay.
So if we're going to find out first, like what's the TAM for that campaign, it's exactly that. We're going to go in and say, show me all the companies that are in B2B SaaS and they're doing 20 million in revenue today. And then I'm assuming Bob's probably going to make some educated guesses of like, if they're trying to get to 50 million, they either have fundraising or they're hiring a lot right now. Like those are different signals that help me identify companies that are potentially actually scaling, right? Because that's what Bob is saying is I want to find people who are growing. So that's how we identify using the third party. So I'll stop
And
there.
would you consider that to be the TAM?
That's the TAM for this campaign.
For that
Exactly.
campaign, right?
For
Right.
that
The
campaign.
addressable market for the campaign that you're trying to run or to go after.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct. So we have our TAM now of like this campaign. We want to go after tech SMBs that are growing. So the second thing is now we want to understand, okay, well, what are the problems that they're probably experiencing? So tech SMB, they're probably hiring multiple reps. They might be hiring for, I'm going to use this in MixMax's proposition just because we sell to revenue teams. So we're going to look for companies that are hiring multiple sellers. They're probably hiring for a RevOps person right now because that 20 to million is showing that you have to start investing in the infrastructure. So I'm going to now take that TAM and I'm going to say, hey, let's see, are there G2 reviews across different companies where people are asking for like complaining that this tool doesn't scale with me and they're a competitor of ours? Are they talking about it on social media? Like those are the different signals that I want to actually understand to see, is this person talking about this? Are they trying to find a solution for this? Okay.
So let me back up. So
Yeah.
let's say I have a TAM of 100, just say 100 companies, right? At this point.
Yeah, 100 companies.
Right. Now, are you looking at each of those 100 companies and saying, are you looking still at the overall set and saying, what are we seeing among this TAM in terms of problems or situations?
Great question. And the best response that I got. So when I was in, I took go-to-market engineering school just because I wanted to learn this stuff because it's not going away. And the best example that was given to me of how think about it is if you want to, if you were to make like any type of statue that you had to actually like, shave the concrete to actually like mold it, right? You're starting with a big block. You don't start off with like the perfect, like, let's say like we're actually trying to make like Michelangelo or David or something, right? Like you start with a big piece of cement and then you have to chip away at that in order to actually create the figure that you want to create. So that's what we're doing here, Tom, is like the TAM is the big block, right?
Okay.
Show me every company that fits this big block.
Okay.
Then I'm going to fine tune that by saying, hey, now actually show me of these companies, which ones are hiring for more than 2 AE roles? Or of this company, which one is hiring for a director of RevOps as well? Or for this company, do they mention something on their website? Like these are where you can use AI and agents to actually go and like scrape that information. So that is me now taking this big block and fine tuning it into who do I actually want to go after? Because the most important thing behind this, it's about personalization. Okay. And I call it personalization with all caps is the persona. People don't care about we went to the same college or like we volunteered the same nonprofit. Like that was cool back in the day, but that's not today. What they actually care about is like, do you understand the world that I live in? Do you understand the problems that I'm trying to solve? And do you actually have some valid information to give to me? So why I say that's important is because, Tom, I now have fine-tuned it to where, let's say that my ultimate structure is that I'm going to go after these tech SMBs that are actually hiring, and they just recently raised a Series B, right? 20 million ARR. They probably are either getting ready to or they just raised a Series B. So I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go after the companies that just raised money because I know they're about to hire. So now out of that 100 companies, I've carved it down to, let's say, 50. Well, now my messaging is very specific.
And just one more question before we leave there is you kind of looked at, their firmographic, psychographic data. What are some of their, do you also look at, hey, these are some of the challenges and problems that those types of companies are dealing with and, whatever the case may be. So you understand a little bit about what, this is not an easy job, even if they just raise money, right? It's not an easy job to double their revenue. there's got to be a lot of challenges and other things that they're keeping them up at night, I guess. What are the things keeping them up at night?
So that's exactly, I love that you bring that up, because that's the next piece of this, right? Is I now know who I'm going after. So now the responsibility on me is to be able to make sure that my messaging is relevant to the problems that I think that they're most likely having. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll give you a very quick example.
So step 1 and 2. Sorry, I keep cutting you off, but
No, you're good.
I'm taking visual notes here.
I
So
love it.
the first step, the first 2 steps is really identifying the who. Now you're saying, okay, what is the what that I'm going to actually communicate to them?
I love that, because we're about to go through a who, what, and when, now that you break it down that way. Because yes, we define the who. Now we're defining the what. What's the message? What is it, the actual pain point they're probably like trying to solve for? So I just put an example of like one that I've created. So it was like, Sarah. So I use what I call the SMART framework, which I think is also a difference in the market today. We don't read emails, we scan them. We don't read text messages, we scan them. That's just who we are as people now. And so I'm big on like your email or any message should be structured to where it's scannable. And so for this example for Tom's, it was like, hey, Sarah, 30 million Series B equals 3 times revenue pressure. Your SDR ramp time is probably killing you. Cloudforce had the same post-funding problem, 6-month ramps burning cash. They fixed it by templatizing their top performer workflows. The result, 5 months to 2 months ramp, 2 million extra pipeline per quarter. None of that is about Sarah, but I promise you, if Sarah reads that, because I've been able to identify that Sarah's hiring 6 SDRs right now, and they just raised a capital raise, Sarah probably has that pressure on her right now. Her target's probably just 3x, and she's trying to figure out how in the hell, sorry, we're live, how in the heck do I actually like get this done? And so that's now is the what, because I now know who. My messaging is the what behind that message. And then the when is where the signals come into play. It's about now engaging Sarah at the right time. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yep.
Okay. I want to pause there for a second, because like I actually really enjoyed that, because we went into the nitty gritty on that one.
That was pretty. You got a pretty like proud smile on your face right there. You're like, I was pretty proud of that one. That was good.
No, not proud. This stuff, I'm a nerd with this stuff. This stuff gets me excited. I love doing it. And so
pride's a good thing. Come on. Yeah, you can be proud of that one. That was a good explanation. I was taking notes.
But I do think it's a big deal. Let's just, before we move on.
Yeah.
Right. You hear all the time, and I think this is super important when you're using AI as well, about the ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
And I think by putting the 2 layers that you just went through, right, and really kind of thinking about those layers for your customer profile, first of all, it helps you understand it better. But if you can articulate those layers and actually use that for your prompts and your system instructions and everything you're doing with the AI, you're going to get much better results from an AI perspective as well. So
completely agree. I think that is the most important part, is understanding. I mean, everything, I'll say this, like anybody listening, if you don't take anything away from this conversation, the most important thing to take away, none of this works if you don't understand your ICP. None of this will ever work if you don't actually understand your customer. And so to your point, Tom, I think ICP is still very high level, because that's still very firmographic, where I'll give you an example. I just pulled up what we have is called our brand kit. And that's where we create personas. So just like Sarah, the manager I just gave you, is we call the personas the stretch sales manager. And for example, we put it, they're challenged. They're flying blind on team activities. They're spending nearly 2 full work days weekly on reports. They need real-time insights for effective coaching. What's their primary job? What are their responsibilities? What's their daily reality? We live and breathe to really put ourselves in their shoes, because to your point, I can now take this brand kit and I can ingest this into AI, and I can teach it now how to actually build effective messaging.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brandon, you were doing that with Fist Bump, right? I mean, all the different, things, getting the ICPs and kind of priming the pump, so to speak, on some of the software stuff that you were doing at one time. with
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time too with our clients and trying to identify that. And I'm sitting over here shaking my head at all this stuff, but it's also kind of like pulling teeth to get customers to really dive into it, because we wanted to do is with our shows and our podcasts and everything, like, hey, how do we make sure that we're getting the right content that you're discussing? You have the right guests that are going to be attractive for your ideal customers, and then the content that's going to really capture their attention, because it's not about just doing a show. It's about taking this 45-minute to an hour show and turning it into email content and blog content and newsletter content and social content. And you can't do that well unless you actually spend the time doing what Heath was just talking about.
yeah.
Like it, and I think too often, I mean, everything I heard you say, and I was excited to hear you say it, is most companies I know, they kind of get to the TAM and they stop. They get to the firmographics and they kind of stop. And it's like we treat everybody exactly the same. They're not looking at signals. They're not looking at micro differences between different organizations. It's like, oh, we don't have time for that. And that's why I tell them is we say over and over again, go slow to move fast. If you really treat people uniquely and personalize down to that level, you're going to move a lot faster. Yes, it takes time on the front end, but on the back end, you've actually demonstrated your value. You've earned that trust. You've demonstrated to them that you're listening, that you know who they are. And that's why everything that Heath just said actually works. And it's easy for a lot of us to shake our head and go, mm-hmm. But when it comes down to actually taking the time to do that work, build out the persona like you did, or in the different versions of the personas, it takes time, it takes effort. Then there's all the content you create for that persona. Well, that takes more time and effort and people.
It does. The one thing I will hold us accountable, right? And when I say us, I'm talking about everybody as a revenue leader. AI has made that a lot easier for us
For
too,
sure.
right? Because I can now easily go and scrape. I mean, I do this for Mixmax. I scrape our G2 reviews and I'm like, I just want to know, like, what are customers saying good about us? What are they saying bad? Right? Like, we have the technology at our hands now to where we can get that detailed. And I think that is it's the double-edged sword of like success over failure with AI, and especially with these like agentic workflows and all these like keywords. But AI is very intelligent, but it lacks context. And when we can't give it the right context, that's when AI gets a little crazy, because it starts to make a lot of assumptions on its own. And so I think, Brandon, you hit the nail on the head. Is like, it's easy for us to like get excited about all these different ways we can do things. But I would encourage every person is first understand, Bob hit it, the ICPs versus RCPs. So I actually call them ICEs, which is what's your ideal customer enterprise. Because that's really what we're saying when we talk about ICP, is we're talking about the firmographic data of the company. Then we go into the personas, which are the actual people behind that organization and what the pains they're experiencing with. Even if you did nothing signal related and nothing automated, if you knew that, even your cold outreach would start to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it would mold every it would start to mold every basically message or conversation that you have, because
And
it
that's,
would move it away from around your product features and functions
it's
to the
crazy
conversation
too.
with the customer. Yeah.
Exactly. And like what blows my mind the most is like you're talking about, Brandon, slow down to speed up. It's insane how faster our sales cycles are, because we have revolved the entire deal around that core problem. And when we can do that, sales is actually fun, because I don't need to talk about our features and about this product and this. Like, everything I'm talking about is, hey, here's what you're trying to solve. Here's how we can make that happen. That's what sales is ultimately about at the end of the day. It's people helping people.
So let's get to the win. So now that we've got the kind of who and the what.
Yeah. So the win is, what I like to call also is like where you decide. There's three different kind of go-to-market motions behind each one. So there's what I call high touch, medium touch, and then no touch. Okay. High touch is like, think about it, if you prioritize your accounts. High touch is like, hey, this is potential high ARR customer or high revenue customer. Um, have sales take that, right? We don't want any automation behind it, because we want to make sure they get white glove treatment. Then you have your medium touch, which is let's leverage some AI and automation, and then let's make sure we added the human in the loop at the right time. And then no touch is like, that is long tail. Maybe if AI can convert them, great, but like we should not allocate any human capital to that motion, right? So the win is now around that, and that's where you can identify those signals. So let me give you a very specific example. We have, let's roll with Bob's segment that he was going after. So if that AI starts reaching out to those customers, and then we're able to identify, okay, well, this one person actually clicked on that link. They went to that blog. They also went and compared our product pages, and they went to our pricing page. What are you going to do with that? Who are you going to give that to? We give it
Depends.
to a rep.
Well,
If
but
go
always,
ahead,
or
actually, it depends. Go ahead.
it depends. But isn't it depends depending upon kind of which bucket they fall into and so forth, and how they fit within your modeling that you've done on your ICP or your RCP. Right?
Exactly. Right. And so now that's where you can start to figure out, where do I need to have the right people in place? Do I have the capacity to be able to do this? Or I might need to actually automate a lot more of these things. The end of the moral of the story, though, for the win, it's just understanding at what point in that customer's journey do I want to add somebody into that mix. That's really what we're trying to answer, is like, do I want this to be fully automated to where I'm going to train an AI to be able to answer questions, handle objections, and potentially close that deal? Or am I building this messaging to guide that customer along the journey I want them to go on? And then when they've actually done the necessary steps, it's saying, rep, they're showing us that they're ready to buy. Like, let's go talk to them. Now I'm adding in what I call human in the loop, which is people want to buy from people. So it's like, we now know what they're looking for, what they're trying to solve, or at least we can make an educated guess. That conversation is very different now at that point.
You brought up something. I mean, this is something I'm just starting to test with our company. I don't have any results yet, so hopefully I will soon. Is taking a Notebook LM. I don't know if you've used Google's Notebook LM, where you can basically put in, videos and white papers and all kinds of things that are, again, sort of related to that problem and that situation for your customer, and then create the little video, because it will create videos for you now. It'll create audio files, and you create basically a predefined Notebook LM, and then send that to the prospect and say, hey, I prepared your kit for you, right? Because this is going to save you a lot of time and whatever for you to, it's your research kit for you to do that. I've also am testing another piece, which I'm just giving them a prompt to put into, Chat GPT or Claude or whatever. And then they could do their own research, but I'm giving them the prompt to start with to see if that is more trustworthy than me giving them the Notebook LM that's there. But in either situation, right, we're giving them something that, and maybe it's a hybrid of what you just described. We're giving them something that they can do more self-serve on their own, but at the same time, they have a lifeline to get back, hopefully a trustworthy lifeline to get back to what we're doing here.
You're completely right, and so I'll give you. We use a tool called AirOps here at Mixmax. AirOps, basically, it's for content at scale. We can leverage AI to help build content, landing pages, etc. So to your point exactly, Tom, is like, if there's a specific, I now know my who and I now know my what, and so now if I'm trying to find the when, right? That's where I can actually get creative, to where if it's around a specific problem, cool, I'm going to go create a bunch of content real quick that's around that specific problem. And then I'm actually going to add the cookies that allows me to track who visits those pages. Same thing with landing pages, is we can do the same thing, as you can create landing pages at scale. Like, that's where, like, I didn't want to get in there, but like, that is the real opportunity, is like, when you can like do the basics. I mean, you can even leverage tools like Clay to build business proposals now and case studies. Like, there's so much that you can do to get creative once you understand kind of, okay, here's where I can start. Then your mind starts to go of like, well, where else can I go?
Right. But if you know the customer or the prospect wants to do self-serve for the most part, but they also want to be efficient with their time, they want to be effective with their time, they want to look good in the organization, they want to look as though they're actually accomplishing something. So then help them do that and be that guide, but guide them in a way that they can do as much of it on their own and maximize their time and effort along the way. And then
Man,
if
you
you can get
hit
the signals, right? And this is an interesting point because I don't think I can get signals out of Notebook LM to see if they're actually watching the video. But my guess is that's coming or will come down the road. But if you can start to get signals based around the content that they're consuming on that, then you know, hey, maybe it's the right time to come back out with something else.
So it's a great. So we actually use a tool called Aligned, which is to where we can build digital sales rooms, and we can actually track the analytics. And so I'll give you a very real world example of this one. This helped us close the deal. They would not tell us who our competitor was that we were going up against. And so I was like, cool. I was like, create a room in the digital sales room that provides a breakdown of every single one of us against our competitors. And all we did is we just tracked the data. We saw which
Yeah,
one they
yeah.
kept clicking on.
Yeah,
And I was like,
right.
I think we have a good idea of like who we're up against here, right? So like that's a great example, Tom.
Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was, I think digital sales rooms um, are one of the more underutilized tools because they take time and a little bit of creative thought, like Heath just did there. But the value of them is pretty tremendous.
Well, and also what Tom, what you hit on there too. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation, but that's also part of what has changed in the world of sales is like we're not selling the decision maker anymore. Our
No,
job now is to equip the champion to actually go and do the internal selling to close that deal. And I think that is such an important thing that too many of us are overlooking. And,
right.
and you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, that is the biggest one that I pay attention to with deals now because your average deal has 5 or 6 people involved in the decision. And so now I'm like, well, who's our champion? Who do we need to make sure that we equip to where they can actually speak about us the right way? That's where most of your deals die now.
Yeah, but the deal room or the sales room or even the Notebook LM is just a form of a virtual sales room, right? That
Yep.
is you have a lot of I call them invisible influencers in larger, more B2B deals.
Yep.
And a lot of times, not only will you see maybe what the champion is doing in one of those rooms, but who are some of those invisible influencers that are coming in and checking this stuff out as well that you may not have ever had any relationship or conversation with along the way. So I can see there's a lot of opportunity to use the virtual sales room in a sort of a multi-dimensional approach to again not just be fishing for information from them, but to actually even adapt right based upon what you're seeing as far as what's going on. And then I wanted to hit Bob's comment here, but is he's saying the problem with the completely automating selling process is that there's limited or no opportunity to create demand or build demand. Demand gen happens when people talk together. I tend to agree, but I think you can create a lot of interest and you can build a lot of trust through the virtual and the automated piece that then opens the door for them willing to have that quality conversation, right? Brandon, we've talked a lot about this. The quality of the conversations we have with people that know us through the podcast, or I have another podcast with my other company. The quality and the depth of the conversations we have, even early on, are night and day for somebody who just stumbled on our website or saw an ad or something like that. It's just not even in the same world, right? So you're not going to have an opportunity to create demand if you're not at the point where in that, I call it my matrix of I've got some level of trust and I have some level of interest. So I have the foundation then to actually have the opportunity to earn the right to build demand from the other
Man,
side.
you made such a good point, and Bob, that was a really good call out too. Because I am not here saying automate everything because I do think that there's a lot of risk in automating everything, right? But I think you also had a really good one, Tom, is that we need to also understand like what's our goal. Too often, our goal through emails and through LinkedIn, anything that's prospecting, is to either book a meeting or if it's transactional to close a deal. But that's the wrong goal. For
Yeah.
me, the goal is of like any of this automation, it's about raising awareness and actually making sure like, do we even solve any problems that are like similar to what they care about? Because if not, why I don't want to waste their time and I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
And so to Bob's point, I think this is where I'll take the signals to the next level, right? Is like around the who is when you're talking about the personas. So that's actually what we do is I'm big on multi-threading. And so whenever we actually, because we're a PLG organization, so we can also go top down. I mean, bottoms up, because we can actually go to the user and try to get them to sign up for Mixmax. So every campaign we do is we have a multi-channel, multi-threaded to where we have a bottoms up campaign, a top down campaign, and then what we call in the middle campaign, which is for your champions. Because the user has different problems that they're trying to solve. The champion has different problems, and then the actual economic buyer has different problems. They're all revolving around the same strategy, but they care about different things. And that is where I think automation can help, because now you're actually building the internal like politics of that deal without even needing to actually engage with every single person.
Brandon, I have a question for you, and I know we need to wrap up here, but what we've been talking about, right? Really understanding your customer, understanding the different dynamics. Wouldn't that be a very valuable foundation to then build the virtual roundtables around that? Because it seems to me the quality of the discussion, the quality of the topics would be at a whole nother level of relevance and value. And I would think also with these roundtables, right? If you go to one, because I've been to some, and some were good and some were, kind of a waste, I thought. But when you go to a good one, you want to go back and you want to invite your friends, right? So I would think that would be a really good foundation for the roundtable.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also what we talked about, that personalization or being on point with it. It's, having conversations with them in between round tables. So you're you're learning, you're constantly learning, and you're able to then go, okay, hey, the next topic is going to be this because we talked to these three people and this is what they're thinking. Yeah, I mean, all that information, if you take the time to get the information and then to use the information, it's invaluable. But too often we don't. We choose to move fast instead of moving smart.
Yeah. But I honestly don't think you can survive in this new world, especially with AI, without doing that homework. Maybe you could have gotten away with it 5 years ago. I don't know. It just seems like it's impossible to survive without doing that stuff.
You can't. And here's, what, like maybe people like, I love that you can't BS it anymore. I absolutely love that. And the reason is because we could not understand our customers and still sell a product. Like that happened in the golden era of SaaS. That's exactly what we did. Everybody had budget. Every tool was new. And so they just bought. Yeah. Now though, like if you cannot actually connect with your customer from a messaging perspective, good luck. It's way too easy for companies to get started. I think, Stripe showed that. Like AI first companies are hitting milestones like 12 months before traditional companies. So the data is showing us that you can move a lot faster, you can build a lot faster, which means the market's going to continue to become commoditized. I will say this, and I say this all the time, B2B is becoming B2C. We are entering the world of Pepsi versus Cola in a software world. And how do they win? You win by knowing and connecting with your customer. Plain and simple. And if you can't do that, I wish you luck, but it's going to be a hard ride for you.
I think that's a great way of ending this conversation. What you said there, Heath, it's you're going to win by knowing and being connected to your customers. And that's why I've started changing the language. Instead of saying go to market, I say, what's our go to network? And the difference I mean for that is we've got to get into the middle of the network and become valuable, become influential, build relationship equity, and have a firm footing there. Go to market just implies so much. We're going to go in and we're going to sell this. We're going to tell them that. Go to network, and even go to might be the wrong way of saying it. But how do you get in the middle of the network and become influential and meet people and know people and be known? Exactly what you said. You summarize it. If you don't know them, you're going to lose. They don't know you.
Yep. Heath, great conversation. Thank you. Yeah. I think we need to do a part 2 here.
I think that was a fast hour for me anyway. That
really
did
blow by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a good half page of notes here too, so I may follow up with you, Heath. I know you're not checking LinkedIn very often, so I'm going to text you. Like, here's my question.
You know that too. Every time you text me, I respond to you within like 5 minutes. But LinkedIn, it might be a couple days.
That's true. That's true.
Well, we should take the episode, the YouTube. This is recorded on YouTube. Drop it into Notebook LM and have it go through.
We were doing that for a while, and I don't know why we stopped, but we were taking every episode, and the next day we were posting the summary from Notebook LM. Two people having a conversation about the episode, and it was such a great, a digital cool version of TLDR.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. All right, Heath. If somebody wants to connect with you, they shouldn't go to LinkedIn. Is that what I'm hearing? They should text you.
No, don't say that. They can go to LinkedIn.
Okay.
But if you message me, just give me a break. Like, give me 2 days, just because there's usually so much noise that I have to filter through.
I know it's getting bad. I know. I'm the same way.
No, but no, LinkedIn is the best way. If we connect, I will accept. If you do message me, I will respond, even if it takes me 48 hours. And I mean, I love connecting with people. I mean, it's how me and Brandon connected. It's how a lot of the relationships I've built. I think that's part of the change that's happening in this market. Is I don't know what I don't know. Brandon doesn't know what he doesn't know. Tom, you don't know what you don't know. But when we put the three of our minds together, we can probably come up with some pretty cool stuff.
Yep.
I do know there's a whole lot that I don't know, though. Does that count?
That's the same for me, man. Like, if you want to do an episode on scars and things I've done wrong, we can fill an hour on that one.
That'd be a good title of an episode. Everything we
have done wrong.
Yeah.
Everything we don't know. That's pretty good.
Done wrong. Yeah, that would probably get a good audience.
Oh gosh, that would be like a Joe Rogan style episode. It'd be about 4 hours long. Gosh.
All right. Well, thanks again, Heath. Have a good week. And thanks for all the great comments as always. We'll see everyone next week. Happy can't even do it. I never always screw it up.
Happy modern selling.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's it. You got it.
For having me, team.
Bye, everybody.